I want to ask you, and really do think about this. Do you want to not be hurt by the ghosting? Or do you want to just let it roll off your shoulders without giving it another thought? Well, that's probably not going to happen because ghosting is evil and evil things hurt. Being ghosted is bizarre, soul crushing, and really among one of the most painful things non ghoster types experience in our entire lives. So, no matter how healed you are, it's going to affect you in some way, and there is nothing wrong with that, my friend. Even if it happened to you for the first time today, ghosting is not okay. And there's absolutely no reason for you to be treated this way, not now, not ever. Here's what happens. You were texting every single day. They talked about the future with you, and then one day, gone. And I'm talking about when there's no fight, nothing. And you're left wondering, why do ghosters think that it's okay to disappear? And do they actually care about me? Oh, and what do I even do with this? How am I supposed to act? First, know this, ghosters aren't that smart. They leave a trail of crusty breadcrumbs for you, which I'm going to break down for you so you can act on it with confidence. So whenever you meet a new person, ask yourself if the following apply, and if they do, then be on gentle alert. Don't make assumptions, because I'm going to give you some tests that you can apply so that you can make informed decisions. Ghosting appears to thrive wherever low accountability, easily replaceable connections, and indirect communication come together. Let me help untangle this. First of the three indicators, I mentioned low accountability, and I say the culture of accountability has ghosted us. Nowadays, it's like people who are supposed to have our backs have forgotten that it's okay to have certain expectations of other people. And people forgot how to support each other like a loving community. If you know this ghoster, call them out. You don't have to be mean, but you can let them know what it is. Because today, someone can disappear without leaving their couch. It's imperative that we recognize a low accountability relationship when we're in it. And that means if we want to reduce the ghosting danger, what we can do is to keep that person accountable. How? Especially when you may be so relieved to have them back that you also don't want to discuss the disappearing and reappearing trick. Historians who interviewed abandoned women from decades ago found that many still struggled to talk about being abandoned. Some admitted that they felt embarrassed or ashamed, and others worried about what family or neighbors would think about it. And yet, fast forward to today, if you've been ghosted, you also may not immediately tell others what happened because it's humiliating, or you wonder if somehow you caused it. But also, you may have convinced yourself that the other person will eventually come back. So save yourself the embarrassment by not talking about it. So before it even gets to that in the first place, purposefully look for a history of abruptly cutting people off. If friends, partners, and family members repeatedly become dead to them after conflict, pay close attention. A person who takes pride in how completely they can erase somebody is bound to repeat it. Notice whether promises are and aren't supported by considerate behavior. They say you matter, but your needs are inconvenient. They talk about a future, but they avoid defining what's happening in the present moment with you. They say they miss you, but repeatedly fail to follow through on plans. Second of the three indicators, you may be blindsided by this simple fact that you probably already knew about ghosting. You became easily replaceable to them. And they show this by leaving and returning before they leave for the final time. They have trained you, my friend, to expect little and to put up with nonsense. That's because when we don't know history, we're bound to repeat it. What I mean is that we think ghosting is something that started with dating apps and social media. It did not. Way back, people were disappearing from relationships without explanation. Ghosting is the modern day version of what earlier generations called abandonment or desertion. 100 years ago, someone disappeared by boarding a train and starting over in a new city where no one knew them. There was even a newspaper in the 1900s that published the Gallery of Missing Husbands. So finding ghosters depended on whether another person recognized their photo in a newspaper. It was essentially an early public effort to hold people accountable. It had become such an epidemic that there was even a government agency that was created to address it. I like that people actually tried to help each other out back then. Even the government was trying. Seems like nowadays people are so quick to just throw other people away, like, oh, there's more fish in the sea, so why do any work on any relationship? Relationships are work. I'm not talking about legitimate situations where there's abuse or danger or where someone is mentally incapacitated. Here's a question for you. Is there a ghost or virtual bulletin board that I don't know about? Because I'd like to put a few people on that list, but I'm sure in today's litigious society, there's no way we could do that anymore. But I do know that some dating apps have apparently made indicators on profiles that help you see if someone could be a serial non-responder. So that's good, but that only covers certain situations. We also have ghosters who are potential employers, clients that owe money, and lots of other situationships. A simple thing that you can do is to ask how their previous relationship ended. Don't interrogate them because you're only going to get the answer that they think you want, but listen to how they talk about responsibility. Do they minimize it or laugh about it? Do they blame the other person? The way they reflect is what really matters more than having a spotless relationship history. Watch for hot and cold communication because that's going to show you what that person is likely to do when things get real, when you need them or want them the most. Let your radar go up when there's overwhelming attention that's followed by unexplained distance, and don't forget it. You might give them a free pass, but that's got to be a one-time thing, if at all. When they return, do they restart the closeness without acknowledging the disappearance? If you let that slide, that trains you to put up with it in the future. Pay attention to accelerated intimacy. They call you their favorite person, soulmate, perfect match, or the person that they've been waiting for before you have really shared enough time and experiences to support those claims. Their alleged affection is out of proportion. Let them prove something first. What's wrong with that? Nothing, my person. State your expectation clearly. If either of us decide not to continue, we say so. This will not prevent a determined ghoster from disappearing, but it removes the excuse that they could use that your expectations were unclear, and it allows you to see how the person responds to directness. Slow the intimacy yourself. I'm not saying that you should be playing games or suppressing genuine feelings, but still allow for words and behavior to meet. Let the relationship pass through disappointment, scheduling problems, boundaries, misunderstandings, and just ordinary stress before deciding that the emotional intensity equals a reliable partnership. The third and last indicator I'm going into depth about, and after this I'll break down ghoster psychology, it's about the trap of indirect communication. I was reading through those records in the Gallery of Missing Husbands and then comparing to now, and it's surprising because the psychology behind people disappearing was essentially the same as ghosting, and it's centered around indirect communication. They simply refused to face things honestly. They met someone else. They couldn't handle financial pressure. They had psychological problems, or they just wanted to end the relationship for whatever reason. And it left the other person confused, embarrassed, or ashamed with unanswered questions and no closure. That's why I'd argue that ghosting is more emotionally disturbing and hurtful because it's so much easier now to get into close communication with multiple other people, while at the same time, they can be insidiously indirect with those communications. And I'm not talking about forcing another person to communicate. And you cannot guarantee nobody is going to ghost you. So this isn't about preventing ghosting. But what it is creating opportunities for direct communication, then paying attention to what happens while being fully prepared to walk away depending on the response. That means create opportunities for you to observe their capacity for communication early. Watch how they handle small discomfort. Do they answer a simple question when their answer may disappoint you? Can they clarify a misunderstanding without punishing you for raising it? Pay attention to what happens when you say no. A boundary introduces a small amount of frustration. Does the person remain connected and respectful, or do they withdraw affection, punish you with silence, or make you chase them? You learn far more about somebody from one well held boundary than from 10 nights of perfect chemistry. If they say that they want honesty, but then become evasive when you ask a direct question, then that's a no go. Do they become vague, delayed, cold, or unreachable the moment the conversation becomes a bit uncomfortable? Take note. Listen carefully how they ask for space. Emotionally healthy space has definition. I am overwhelmed. I will call you on Friday. Ambiguous communication sounds like I just need time with no agreement about whether you are together, whether contact will continue, or when the conversation will resume. A request for indefinite space can be ghosting material. If you notice withdrawing, ask once plainly, do you want to continue this relationship? Do not spend weeks writing increasingly beautiful messages to somebody who is choosing not to answer. Set a personal boundary for unexplained silence, communicate it, and then honor it. As promised about ghosting psychology, ghosters in general think their behavior is justified, but not all of them. But that's still a load of crap, in my opinion. In a 2025 New York Times article called Confessions of a Ghost, 10 people explained why they disappeared instead of simply telling someone that the relationship was over. The pattern across these confessions was that they usually knew that the ghosting would hurt the other person, but avoiding their own discomfort felt easier than facing that person's pain. Almost none of them described themselves as cold or heartless. Many admitted that they felt guilty, overwhelmed, insecure, resentful, or afraid of confrontation. Some even wrote messages that they never sent. That doesn't excuse what they did. It shows that ghosting is a conscious decision to protect themselves from one difficult conversation by leaving someone else with all the confusion and rejection. And several of the ghosters admitted that they still thought about the person that they left behind. So disappearing didn't erase the discomfort for them, if that's any comfort for you. Beyond that article, it's also super apparent that ghosters have an avoidant attachment style and withdraw when emotional closeness gets real. They lack the emotional maturity or empathy needed to communicate honestly. And in some cases, they intentionally withhold information that would give the other person closure as a way to maintain control or to literally cause emotional damage on purpose. Yeah, they know what they're doing and they do it anyway. Do ghosters even care about you? So if you confront them, they don't see your pain. They see your questions as the problem. They don't in general believe that they've done anything wrong, and they often feel offended that you're asking for clarity or refusing to accept their behavior. If somebody shows these tendencies, treat the pattern as information. Do not keep waiting for a dramatic final abandonment that will make your concern legitimate. Intermittent disappearance already shows you how they regulate discomfort and how much uncertainty that they are willing to make you carry. And pay more attention to behavioral consistency than future promises. Anybody can describe the life that they imagine having with you. Watch whether they reliably participate in the relationship that exists now. It's so hard, I know, because before the ghosting happened, the pattern is often that they were communicating every day and you were spending a lot of time together along with physical intimacy. The ghosters were affectionate and they said they missed you. They talked about the future or made plans, even if it was a cup of coffee the next day. Often there were no recent fights or significant arguments. But if you haven't been a bit meticulous about checking communication, accountability, and their access to you ahead of time, often that leads to pain, silence, and confusion because the disappearances feel abrupt and completely out of the blue.